Naomi Adeyemi clung to consciousness as waves draped her like a cold shroud. In the vast, moonlit Atlantic, she drifted alone on the dark waters, a living metaphor for betrayal and loss. Just hours ago, she had been the epitome of success, a formidable billionaire celebrated in Lagos for her relentless innovation in marine technology, a legacy inherited from visionary parents. Now, as the gentle hum of the ocean mingled with her labored breaths, memories of laughter, boardroom victories, and the glistening promise of a golden future fought with the gnawing pain of deception. The silence of the open sea was deafening, not even the scattered whispers of seagulls offered solace. Only the creeping dread reminded her that trust had been exploited, leaving her vulnerable in a moment of ultimate treachery. In her mind's eye, fragments of the past replayed in harsh, unyielding clarity. The elegant soirees, the triumphant announcements of breakthrough inventions, and the dazzling smile of the man she once believed would stand by her side forever. Naomi's heart churned with confusion and disbelief as the luxury yacht receded into a distant memory. A vessel that once symbolized opulence and promise, now the stage for her darkest hour. The taste of salt mixed with tears, etching a painful truth upon her soul. Everything she built, every hope she cherished, was under attack by the very person who had vowed eternal loyalty. Every wave was a cruel reminder of a betrayal so profound, it threatened to erase her identity. In that moment of solitude and despair, the ocean whispered the beginnings of a new destiny. A destiny that would transform devastation into a relentless quest for justice. A rebirth forged in the crucible of heartbreak and betrayal. Once known as the radiant golden girl of the ocean, Naomi Adeyemi had built her empire on vision, courage, and an unwavering commitment to marine innovation. Back in Lagos, the shimmering skyline and bustling streets echoed with whispers of her groundbreaking achievements. From securing major international partnerships to funding innovative research on sustainable marine resources, Naomi's accomplishments had not only revolutionized industries but also inspired an entire generation. However, amidst the glitz and the relentless pace of success, loneliness lurked behind her every smile. Night after night, as she returned to her spacious penthouse overlooking the harbor, the empty echo of her footsteps reminded her that no amount of wealth could fill the void of authentic companionship. It was during those moments of solitude that she began to question the intentions of those around her. Yet, the brightest lights often cast the deepest shadows. Her life took an even sharper turn when she met Damian, a man whose charm and enigmatic allure captivated her very soul. His captivating gaze and eloquent words swept her into a whirlwind romance that promised to match her ambition and zeal for life. In the tender glow of budding love, Damian soon became her confidant, her partner, and the emblem of a fresh start. Naomi's trust in him was profound, bolstered by whispered promises of future endeavors and a shared vision that spanned the glittering spectrum of high society and the cutting-edge realm of marine sciences. As she planned lavish parties aboard yachts and exclusive getaways, the glow of her success radiated even brighter against the Lagos night. Yet beneath this glimmer of promise, an undercurrent of foreboding stirred, a silent warning that sometimes the very person you cherish most can be the architect of your downfall. Even as the city celebrated her achievements with fervor, Naomi's heart fluttered with a cautious hope, unaware that the stage was already set for the ultimate betrayal. It began with whispers of a man cloaked in charm yet exuding an unsettling mystery, a man who would soon become known as Damian. With an irresistible blend of sophistication and raw appeal, he stepped into Naomi's glamorous life like a hero from a bygone era, promising to nurture her dreams while igniting passions that neither had dared to explore before. His arrival was like a carefully orchestrated spectacle at a charity gala hosted in one of Lagos's most opulent ballrooms. His easy smile and captivating conversation drew the attention of influential figures, stirring envy and admiration in equal measure. Naomi was smitten by this stranger who appeared to understand not just the language of wealth but the subtleties of emotion and desire hidden within her. Over candlelit dinners and clandestine walks along the harbor, he spoke of projects that would reshape coastal cities and the future of marine sustainability. To her, each word was like a golden promise, a rare melody that echoed the familiar ballads of hope and ambition she had grown up with. But behind his silken facade, a darker current was flowing, one that would later reveal itself as a meticulously woven web of deceit. As Damian serenaded her with the assurance of lifelong commitment, Naomi found solace in the belief that she was finally home. Yet, the stark reality of her trust was about to shatter like glass thrown against a stormy window. In a world where appearances were designed to lull one into complacency, she remained blissfully unaware that every tender moment with Damian was being catalogued as the groundwork for an epic betrayal. What began as an exhilarating symphony of shared dreams would soon descend into a discordant, heart-wrenching solo. A prelude to the tragedy that would upend her life and leave her fighting for survival in a harsh, uncaring sea. The silver gleam of the silver wave promised a taste of paradise as Naomi and Damian embarked on their lavish anniversary voyage. The yacht was a floating palace, bedecked with polished wood, crystal chandeliers, and panoramic views of the endless ocean. A stark contrast to the dark truth slowly unraveling behind its opulent facade. The air was heavy with the scent of expensive perfumes and soft laughter, as delicate strings of conversations intertwined with the rhythmic sway of gentle waves. Yet amid this controlled splendor, a palpable tension simmered beneath the surface. Naomi discovered a mysterious locked drawer in their exquisite suite, a small yet ominous detail that triggered a cascade of unsettling questions. When she approached Damian about it, his response was laced with cold dismissal and cleverly veiled gaslighting that made her doubt her own senses. "It's nothing," he reassured with a disarming smile, though his eyes betrayed a flicker of something unspoken, something dangerous. In that fleeting moment, the harmonious notes of their celebration began to falter, replaced by a dissonant overtone of secrets and lies. Naomi's heart, once filled with the euphoria of shared dreams, now pounded in rhythms of uncertainty and dread. Every glimmer of the yacht's grandeur shifted into a grim reminder of an impending doom. As the waves clashed softly against the hull and the yacht sailed deeper into the night, the feeling of betrayal tightened its grip on her soul. The locked drawer was a silent herald of the storm, a prelude to a catastrophic act that would soon plunge her into a nightmare where the ocean itself would bear witness to her suffering and rebirth. Under the ethereal glow of a starlit sky, the yacht's deck became the setting for a moment of unthinkable treachery. Naomi barely had time to process the unfolding horror as Damian, with an eerie calmness that defied all the passion of their earlier encounters, raised his glass for a celebratory toast. The clink of fine crystal undercut by a sudden, deadly silence sent ripples of shock through her already trembling heart. Without a word, without any overt sign of hesitation, he lunged forward and, with calculated precision, pushed her over the edge of the deck. The action was swift, almost surreal in its quiet brutality, leaving behind only a haunting stillness that seemed to echo with every betrayal of trust. As she plunged into the cold, unforgiving embrace of the ocean, a gruesome ballet of saltwater and crimson unfolded around her. Time slowed to a torturous crawl as shock and disbelief merged with the sting of hurt and betrayal. The luxurious world that had once cradled her dreams now dissolved into an abyss of darkness and despair. Damian's face, a grotesque mask of feigned sorrow and detached calculation, faded into the receding panorama of the yacht, leaving Naomi to confront the terror of betrayal alone. The rhythmic pull of the current swallowed her cries for help and any promise of rescue, blurring the boundaries between life and death. In that suspended moment, the ocean was both her executioner and her unlikely savior, cradling her battered body while etching into her memory the indelible mark of ultimate treachery. A mark that would later fuel an inferno of vengeance and resilience. In the aftermath of the devastating fall, Naomi's struggle for survival became a desperate fight against nature's indifferent might. The ocean, at first a seemingly boundless expanse of serene beauty, turned into a treacherous realm where every wave threatened to drown her not just in water, but in despair. Gasping for breath and battling the numbing chill, she found herself locked in an elemental war with currents that seemed determined to erase every trace of who she once was. Amid the chaos of swirling waters, fragmented flashbacks of her past life surged forth, vivid recollections of joyous celebrations, groundbreaking innovations, and the tender moments of genuine connection that had defined her success. Each memory was both a beacon of hope and a searing reminder of what had been lost. As if guided by fate, a weathered fishing boat emerged on the horizon, a solitary lifeline in an unforgiving sea. The boat's owner, a humble fisherman with a compassionate glimmer in his eyes, spotted her flailing in the darkness and navigated through the tumultuous waves to reach her. With skill honed by years of battling the capricious ocean, he rescued Naomi from the brink of oblivion, cradling her battered form with gentle care. Though her body bore the cruel marks of her ordeal, bruises, cuts, and the mingled evidence of blood and salt, the spark of life still burned fiercely within her. In the fragile cocoon of the fisherman's modest boat, Naomi began to feel the first stirrings of hope amidst the wreckage. Every splash, every gust of wind carried the silent promise of a second chance, a chance to rise, to reclaim her identity from the wreckage of betrayal, and to transform her devastation into the catalyst for a daring new beginning. Awakening in a rustic, coastal village far removed from the glimmering skyscrapers of Lagos, Naomi found herself in a world that was as raw and unpolished as her shattered soul. The narrow, winding lanes of the village, lined with humble homes and vibrant street markets, offered a stark contrast to the luxury and grandeur that had once defined her life. Her body, ravaged by the merciless ocean, ached with each movement, and her skin told a tale of survival and pain that words could scarcely capture. Villagers, initially cautious yet ultimately filled with a quiet compassion, rallied to aid her recovery. Among them was Tara, a perceptive young woman whose eyes sparkled with empathy and an unspoken understanding of hardship. Tara's gentle touch and reassuring words became the lifeline that tethered Naomi to the possibility of renewal. In the simplicity of village life, under the soft glow of oil lamps and amidst the rhythmic sounds of local music, Naomi began the slow, painstaking process of healing. She was no longer a billionaire ensconced in a world of polished facades, but a vulnerable soul mending amid humble surroundings. Yet, even as her body healed, her mind was tormented by the unanswered questions that haunted her. Who was truly behind the betrayal? How could a man she had trusted so implicitly orchestrate such cruelty? The answers remained as elusive as the shifting tides, and in their absence, a simmering determination took root. Each day, as the sun rose above the modest rooftops of the village, Naomi resolved to reclaim her identity and rebuild the life that had been so callously torn apart. The villagers watched in quiet as she embarked on this arduous journey, a journey that would not only reshape her destiny but also ignite a fire of rebellion against the forces that had once sought to bury her spirit beneath the weight of deceit. Back in the glittering corridors of Lagos' power elite, Damian assumed the mantle of grief with remarkable ease. The media's relentless gaze fixated on every theatrical gesture, his tear-stained public appearances, the whispered eulogies of a woman presumed lost, and the orchestrated narratives of heartbreak that seemed too polished to be real. In a calculated move that stunned even the most skeptical critics, he produced a dubious will that legally transferred control of Naomi's vast conglomerate to himself. With every public address, his performance art of sorrow deepened, casting him as the tragic figure tormented by the loss of a beloved icon. Yet beneath that well-crafted facade, the seeds of greed and cruelty germinated unchecked. As the city mourned the sudden disappearance of one of its brightest stars, Naomi's empire, once a testament to innovation and hope, began to rot under Damian's ruthless stewardship. Boardroom discussions turned bitter, and the once unified workforce grew fractured under the weight of rampant corruption and mismanagement. Within these sterile offices, where ambition had once soared freely, an undercurrent of decay spread, each fraudulent decision, each insidious bribe a testament to the collapse of integrity. Unbeknownst to Damian, however, his impeccable mask of sorrow was only the precursor to his undoing. The very secrets he had buried beneath layers of deceit were patiently gathering dust, waiting for the moment when the truth would surge forth like a tidal wave. In the clandestine corners of this corporate labyrinth, whispers of scandal, of manipulated accounts and stifled investigations, began to circulate. The empire, built on the unyielding spirit of Naomi's vision, was now teetering on the brink of a crisis that would ultimately lay bare the rot at its core and ignite the spark of a long-awaited reckoning. In the quiet solitude of the coastal village, far removed from the glitter and betrayal of Lagos, Naomi began a slow, deliberate metamorphosis. Though her body bore the scars of her recent ordeal, her spirit, burned by the injustice of her abandonment, was not yet extinguished. With Tara's steadfast support, she started to rebuild herself piece by resilient piece. The daily routines of village life, with its unpretentious charm and sincere camaraderie, offered her both solace and strength. Mornings were spent in quiet reflection, while afternoons saw her engaging in manual tasks that served to reconnect her with the fundamental rhythms of life. Each chore, each shared smile with the locals, chipped away at the hardened shell of betrayal that had threatened to define her existence. Amid the humble simplicity, Naomi began to physically train, to rediscover strength in her limbs and resolve in her heart. With every stretch, every deliberate movement, she recalled the fierce determination that had once propelled her to the pinnacle of success. It was a grueling process, marked by moments of despair, but also punctuated by small, fierce victories. Slowly, the woman who had been knocked to the depths of despair began to reassemble herself into a figure of renewed resilience and determination. In secret moments of quiet contemplation, she revisited old memories, not to wallow in nostalgia, but to rekindle the fire of ambition that had once defined her. Hidden deep within the recesses of an old email account, a cache of untold secrets and unaddressed grievances began to emerge. These digital relics, tucked away from prying eyes, would soon ignite the spark of a comeback that no one could have foreseen. With every bit of strength gathered from the humble village and the indomitable human spirit, Naomi vowed that the betrayal would not be the end of her story. It would serve as the catalyst for a return that would shake the foundations of the world she once ruled. Haunted by the dual specters of loss and injustice, Naomi's thoughts turned inexorably to reclaiming what had been stolen from her. Not just her fortune, but the very essence of her identity and the future of her empire. In the quiet seclusion of the village night, beneath a tapestry of stars and the soft murmur of distant waves, she began to formulate a daring plan. No longer could she allow her identity to be manipulated by the machinations of a man with a dark heart. Instead, she resolved to break free from the oppressive persona that the world had so eagerly embraced as the fallen billionaire. With trembling determination, she started sifting through the digital remains of her former life. An old email account, one that had once served as a repository of her professional triumphs and personal secrets, held the key to unraveling the tapestry of lies that Damian had woven. Each message contained threads of truth that, when pulled together, promised to expose the breadth of the deception. It was a painstaking process, one that required both technological savvy and the courage to confront painful truths. As she pieced together these digital fragments, the magnitude of the betrayal crystallized into a burning resolve for retribution. The plan was clear. She would return to Lagos, not as the beloved Naomi Adeyemi, but as an unrecognizable force, one armed with undeniable proof of corruption, a trail of digital breadcrumbs that would lead straight to Damian's crumbling empire. Even in those dimly lit hours, as the village slept quietly around her, a spark of rebellious hope flared within Naomi's chest. The resolve to reclaim her narrative, to transform her tragedy into a rallying cry for justice, was becoming as tangible as the tangible objects in the room before her. Every keystroke, every deliberate step forward in her plan, echoed with the promise of an unstoppable comeback, a promise that the tide of betrayal would soon be reversed and that her voice, silenced for too long, would rise again with the force of a tsunami. The dawn that followed brought with it a fragile blend of hope and trepidation. Naomi, now resolute and focused, knew that every moment spent in the obscurity of the village was a moment the corrupt forces in Lagos could use to tighten their grip. Her mind raced with plans and contingencies as she prepared for the journey ahead. A covert mission to reclaim not only her lost empire but also her self-worth, which had been trampled in the wake of a staggering betrayal. With the clandestine support of Tara, who had grown into a trusted confidant and emblem of resilience, Naomi began finalizing the details of her audacious plan. She spent long hours poring over the confidential emails and digital files salvaged from her old account, each document a testament to the intricate web of deception spun by Damian and his cronies. The evidence was damning. Embezzlement, bribery, and even whispers of more sinister plots laid bare in unguarded moments of digital confession. As she compiled these revelations, Naomi meticulously crafted a timeline that highlighted every instance of betrayal, transforming raw data into an irrefutable case against her treacherous husband. Despite the ever-present danger of being discovered, she took calculated risks, encrypting the files, creating backups, and planning a discreet return to Lagos under the guise of a humble business consultant. Each action was laced with urgency and defiance, a declaration that her spirit, nearly crushed by treachery, was now a relentless force of resistance. The village, with its unyielding simplicity and silent support, became both a sanctuary and a launching pad for her resurgence. The night before her departure was one of restless sleep and fervent prayer, a final moment of vulnerability before a transformation that would leave the world scrambling to understand the depths of her resilience. In that hushed, contemplative twilight, Naomi promised herself that Damian's reign of deceit would soon come to an end. Her determination was as immovable as the ancient cliffs that guarded the coastline, a promise to reclaim her legacy and expose the bitter truth that had once threatened to drown her. Under the shroud of anonymity and armed with irrefutable evidence of Damian's nefarious deeds, Naomi embarked on her journey back to Lagos, a city that had once sung her name in accolades but now echoed with the hollow sounds of betrayal. Disguised and resolute, she stepped off a nondescript bus and melded with the urban throng, every step a silent declaration of war against the false narrative that had been forced upon her. Lagos, a bustling metropolis of dreams and relentless ambition, became the battleground where she would orchestrate her long-awaited comeback. The familiar cacophony of city life, honking buses, vibrant street vendors, and the constant hum of whispered rumors now resonated with the promise of retribution. Quietly, she monitored the empire that Damian had built on a foundation of lies, noting every inconsistency, every crack in the veneer of his manufactured grief. Under the cover of darkness, Naomi began to infiltrate his inner circle, posing as a trusted insider eager to invest in innovative marine technologies. The transformation was nothing short of miraculous. The once celebrated billionaire now assumed a humble guise, allowing her to slip undetected through the corridors of power. Each encounter was calculated with the precision of a master strategist, her sympathetic smile masking the resolve of a woman who had nothing left to lose. In hushed conversations within opulent gala halls and discreet meetings over lukewarm coffee in shadowed corners, she gathered the final pieces of the puzzle. The murmurs of corporate scandal, the discreet nods exchanged in high-rise boardrooms, and the furtive glances of those who sensed the winds of change all coalesced into a symphony of impending justice. For every secret shared in confidence, Naomi's arsenal of evidence grew more formidable. The city, with its pulsating energy and unyielding spirit, became an unwitting accomplice to her impending revelation. The stage was set for a confrontation that would reverberate far beyond the glossy facades of Lagos elite, a reckoning that would expose the venomous core of betrayal and restore the truth to its rightful place. At a lavish gala hosted by Damian to celebrate his supposed triumph over tragedy, Naomi, disguised under layers of careful deceit, slipped into the very heart of the opulent gathering. The grandeur of the event, with its sparkling chandeliers and impeccably dressed elites, stood in stark contrast to the undercurrent of corruption pulsating through every conversation. As the evening unfolded, voices mingling with the clink of expensive glassware, Naomi moved quietly through the crowd, her eyes keenly observing every detail. She recognized key players in Damian's inner circle, the CFO whose furtive glances betrayed a guilty conscience, the marketing director whose laughter masked contrition, and other shadowy figures who were unwittingly complicit in the deceit. In whispered exchanges and subtle inquiries, Naomi began the delicate art of information extraction. Her questions, though carefully veiled in casual conversation, were laced with incisive scrutiny. "Isn't it strange how success often walks hand in hand with secrets?" she would murmur softly, gauging reactions that ranged from nervous chuckles to swift, defensive murmurs. Every interaction was a step toward reclaiming her narrative, each detail meticulously noted and internalized. The gala's environment, designed to celebrate Damian's ostensible benevolence, now smelt of irony and hidden treachery. Behind the soft melodies and the polite clinking of cutlery, Naomi's mind raced with plans to unmask the truth. Every confident smile she offered was a mask hiding a storm of righteous fury. With a practiced ease, she mingled amidst the glittering crowd, gathering not only hushed confidences but also piecing together the long-suppressed reality of the empire now slowly crumbling under the weight of its own deceit. The gala, meant to be a tribute to a man who had become a symbol of manufactured grief, inadvertently became the stage for the prologue of Naomi's ultimate reclamation. A quiet storm gathering momentum, promising a reckoning that would soon silence the false narratives once and for all. In the days that followed the gala, Naomi's covert operations gathered unprecedented momentum. No longer satisfied with mere observations, she took bolder steps to infiltrate the inner sanctum of Damian's empire. Working under an alias that masked her true identity, she forged alliances with those disillusioned by the rampant corruption within the company. Even as the glitter of Lagos elite continued its ceaseless display of ostentatious wealth, the undercurrents of unrest grew louder. In discreet, candlelit meetings held in upscale yet inconspicuous locations, Naomi cultivated relationships with trusted insiders, each conversation a carefully laid brick in the fortress of evidence she was constructing. She visited high-security boardrooms under the guise of an interested investor, her eyes and ears attuned to any slip that might reveal the depth of the deception. In one particularly tense encounter, a nervous executive confided in her about discrepancies in the financial reports, an admission that sent a jolt of triumph through her. "Everything has a price," he whispered, glancing over his shoulder. That single word, laden with guilt and resignation, became a crucial fragment in Naomi's growing dossier. With every piece of stolen information and every covert meeting arranged under the cloak of anonymity, her courage soared. She began to witness firsthand the crumbling edifice that Damian had so carefully constructed. Every whispered confession, every scribbled note found in a discarded folder was like a spark that would soon ignite a conflagration of truth. The pulse of the city, always rhythmic and relentless, now beat in tandem with her resolve. Lagos was a city of reinvention, and Naomi was determined to reclaim not only her identity but also the integrity of an empire betrayed by greed. Her actions, though shrouded in secrecy, resonated with a quiet promise, one that would soon unsettle the foundations of power and expose the rot festering beneath a veneer of manufactured sorrow. As Naomi's network of informants expanded, the digital and real worlds converged into a grand tapestry of truth waiting to be unraveled. With the silent efficiency of a master tactician, she began the intricate process of hacking into the company's secure servers. Working late into the night in a modest apartment far from the glitzy corridors of power, she meticulously gathered every shred of evidence, emails, financial records, and confidential memos that collectively painted a damning picture of corruption. Every keystroke was laden with the weight of justice, every file a testament to the betrayal that had cost her everything. The atmosphere in that sparse workspace was charged with a blend of adrenaline and grim determination. Outside, the city of Lagos pulsed with unyielding energy, oblivious to the digital revolution unfolding behind a nondescript screen. Naomi's actions were deliberate and surgical, designed not only to expose Damian's misdeeds but also to galvanize those who had long suffered under his oppressive reign. It wasn't just about reclaiming a lost empire, it was about restoring honor to a legacy built on genuine innovation and compassion. As she sifted through the labyrinth of encrypted data, the evidence began to form a coherent narrative of greed, manipulation, and deceit. The undeniable truth of Damian's exploitation and mismanagement was now etched in cold, hard data waiting to be unleashed upon a world hungry for accountability. Every fractured record, every misappropriated sum symbolized a betrayal that extended far beyond personal vendettas. It was a systemic rot that had infected not only one man's empire but also the very fabric of trust within the industry. With the evidence securely consolidated, Naomi prepared the final step in her plan, a digital dossier that would soon burst into the public consciousness like a supernova of justice. The stage was set for a dramatic unveiling that would transform quiet office corridors into battlegrounds of truth and force the hidden culprits into the harsh glare of accountability. With the digital dossier complete and every incriminating detail meticulously verified, Naomi shifted her strategy from covert operations to an all-out media blitz. The world of social media, with its insatiable appetite for scandal and redemption, became the battleground where her truths would be unveiled. Under the discreet banner of an untraceable alias, she began releasing carefully curated excerpts of the evidence to influential journalists, bloggers, and online influencers known for their fearless pursuit of the truth. The initial leaks sent shockwaves across Lagos and beyond. In boardrooms, cafes, and buzzing newsrooms, murmurs of disbelief and indignation spread like wildfire. She didn't drown. She was silenced, read one provocative headline that quickly trended on every major platform. The strategic release was timed to coincide with a major press conference that Damian had scheduled, a calculated risk designed to maximize the impact of the revelations. With each new document and every startling piece of digital evidence that emerged, the public narrative began to shift dramatically. Former allies and trusted insiders, now emboldened by the tide of truth, stepped forward to corroborate Naomi's revelations. The very foundations of Damian's carefully curated persona began to crumble under the weight of undeniable facts. Behind the veneer of orchestrated grief, the rotten core of exploitation and corruption was laid bare for all to see. In online forums and late-night television segments, debates raged about the moral bankruptcy of power unchecked. Naomi's voice, once silenced by betrayal, began to echo powerfully across digital landscapes. Every tweet, every live stream, and every shared post contributed to a growing chorus demanding accountability. As the storm of public outrage reached its crescendo, it became clear that the era of impunity was drawing to a close. The digital dossier, a tool forged from the embers of a shattered past, was now a blazing beacon of justice, a call to arms for all who had suffered at the hands of deceit and greed. The confrontation that had been simmering beneath the surface of Lagos elite finally reached its boiling point in a private, high-stakes meeting arranged in the opulent penthouse of one of the city's most exclusive buildings. In this exclusive setting, where whispered confidences had once fueled dreams of prosperity, Naomi, disguised no longer as a silent observer but as the relentless force of retribution, finally came face to face with Damian. The air in the penthouse was thick with tension, the grandeur of the surroundings contrasting sharply with the raw emotion that vibrated in every word exchanged. Damian's face, once the epitome of charming assurance, now contorted with a mix of shock, guilt, and a desperate attempt to cling to control. "How could you be here?" he demanded, his tone teetering between incredulity and menace, as if the presence of this enigmatic stranger threatened to unravel his carefully constructed life. Naomi's eyes, steely and unyielding, burned with the intensity of all the lives that had suffered due to his relentless greed. "I have every right to be here," she replied quietly, her voice steady despite the fury that churned beneath the surface. "You thought you could silence me, erase me from existence. But I am not the woman you betrayed." Every word she spoke was a measured volley of emotion and determination. A declaration that the truth, long buried under layers of deceit, would now rise with the force of a tidal wave. In that charged confrontation, the past was laid bare. Every betrayal, every sin committed in the name of ambition was held up against the harsh light of accountability. The penthouse, once a stage for opulent masquerades, became the arena for a reckoning that would redefine the very essence of justice. For a moment, the only sounds were their measured breaths and the unspoken weight of histories colliding, a poignant reminder that even the mightiest could fall when confronted with unwavering truth. With the private confrontation serving as a catalyst, Naomi's next move was as swift as it was decisive. Instead of allowing the moment to fade into the shadowed corridors of high society, she engineered a public reckoning that would broadcast her truth to millions. In the age of viral media, timing was everything, and Naomi's carefully orchestrated plan now pivoted toward a high-impact livestream event that would expose Damian's treachery in real time. From a discreet location in Lagos, where anonymity still offered a semblance of safety, she set up a secure digital broadcast under her untraceable alias. The live feed began with an eerie calm, a quiet introduction that slowly built into a crescendo of revelations as she sequentially released segments of the damning evidence. Each document, each intercepted communication was displayed for the world to see, accompanied by her measured narration that took the viewer through the labyrinth of betrayal, corruption, and calculated deceit. "This is not just my story," she declared, her voice resonating with a blend of sorrow and fierce determination. "This is a call to every person who has ever been betrayed by the ones they trusted." The digital audience exploded with questions, shares, and fervent support as hashtags ignited across platforms. News outlets scrambled to verify the authenticity of the evidence while the stock market began to react to the unfolding scandal. For every viewer watching the live stream, the narrative of Damian's fabricated grief transformed into a powerful saga of accountability. Naomi's revelations were more than just data points on a screen. They were the cracks in a facade that promised justice, ushering in a tidal wave of public outrage that could no longer be contained. The live broadcast, an electrifying mix of raw emotion and indisputable evidence, heralded the beginning of the end for a man who had once seemed untouchable, igniting a movement that resonated far beyond the glittering facades of Lagos corporate towers. As the digital revolution set the wheels of justice in motion, the fallout from the live broadcast rapidly manifested in every corner of the public sphere. The media, eager for exclusives and unfiltered truth, pounced on the scandal like vultures circling a wounded beast. News programs dedicated prime-time slots to dissecting every shred of evidence Naomi had so meticulously laid out. Talk shows and social media platforms erupted with impassioned debates, casting Damian not as a tragic figure but as the embodiment of avarice and moral decay. In boardrooms, stock values plummeted with unprecedented speed as investors scrambled to distance themselves from the exposed corruption. The repercussions were immediate and far-reaching. Legal authorities launched comprehensive investigations into the entire conglomerate, and former allies of Damian began to distance themselves publicly, their voices trembling with the realization that their complicity had sealed their fate. Amid the cacophony of breaking news and shifting public opinion, Naomi's voice remained a steady, clarion call for justice. Every news ticker and social media update repeated her message, a plea for accountability that transcended personal revenge and touched on a universal demand for integrity and truth. The momentum built by the broadcast was now a force too powerful to be ignored. In one of the most dramatic scenes of the unfolding saga, security personnel escorted a visibly shaken Damian from a high-rise office building as he was arrested in broad daylight, a moment captured on countless smartphones and shared across the globe. The fall of a titan was now undeniable, and the scales of justice had begun to tilt under the weight of public scrutiny and undeniable truth. The resonant message was clear: no one, no matter how deeply entrenched in power, could escape accountability when faced with the relentless pursuit of justice. In the immediate aftermath of Damian's arrest, Lagos found itself at the crossroads of chaos and catharsis. The city streets, which had once shimmered with the opulence of wealth and influence, now buzzed with the raw energy of public reckoning. Anonymous messages and impassioned protests filled social media feeds, each post a testament to the anger and determination of a populace that had long yearned for justice. Among the sea of voices was Naomi's, steady, commanding, yet unmistakably filled with the weight of a woman reborn from betrayal. In a series of carefully recorded follow-up videos distributed under her alias, she reiterated a message of renewal and resilience, that the fall of one corrupt empire could pave the way for a more equitable future. "I am not here to seek revenge alone," she declared in one such address, her voice resonating through the tumult of public discourse. "I am here to show that truth has a way of rising, even when it seems that the depths have swallowed us whole." The arrest of Damian, while dramatic, was just the opening act in a larger reformation. Legal battles loomed on the horizon, and inquiries into corporate mismanagement were now a certainty. In boardrooms across Lagos, executives who had once thrived under the aegis of power began to reevaluate every decision with palpable anxiety. Among them, a quiet sense of remorse mingled with the newfound resolve to rebuild from the ashes of deceit. For the people who had long suffered under the weight of systemic corruption, Naomi's triumph was not just a personal victory. It was a clarion call for reform, a sign that even the mightiest could be brought low by the unstoppable force of truth. In that charged atmosphere, the collective spirit of a city long accustomed to silent compromise found new life, rallying behind the promise that justice, no matter how delayed, was finally within reach. As the days turned into weeks and the shockwaves of the scandal continued to reverberate through Lagos, Naomi's transformation evolved into a full-fledged renaissance. A metamorphosis marked not only by the reclamation of her legacy but by a bold reimagining of what her empire could become. Amid lingering questions about the integrity of the past, she embarked on a mission to rebuild on principles of transparency, innovation, and community empowerment. The corporate headquarters that once symbolized opulence and outdated hierarchies were reconfigured into dynamic centers of research, collaboration, and social responsibility. High-rise meeting rooms gave way to open forums where ideas were exchanged freely and every decision was made with the collective good in mind. Naomi's journey from victim to victor resonated beyond the confines of the boardroom. It ignited a movement among those disillusioned by the predatory practices that had once dominated the industry. Behind the facade of board meetings and press conferences, she worked tirelessly with experts, community leaders, and even former skeptics to lay the foundation for a new era. Each meeting, each collaborative brainstorming session was a reaffirmation of her commitment to ushering in change that was both deeply personal and universally impactful. In private reflections shared with close confidants, Naomi acknowledged that the scars of her ordeal would always serve as a reminder of the vulnerabilities inherent in trust and ambition. But in transforming her pain into purpose, she had not only reclaimed her identity, but had also set a new precedent for ethical innovation. The reformed empire began attracting fresh talent, forward-thinking investors, and individuals hungry for a chance to participate in something transformative. Slowly, the energy within the corridors of power shifted, from one fueled by calculated greed to one defined by visionary collaboration and genuine care. In every corner of Lagos, from the bustling markets to the sleek glass towers, whispers spread of the inspiring comeback of a woman who had turned betrayal into the catalyst for a revolution in the world of business and beyond. With the foundations of her revived enterprise taking shape, Naomi turned her attention back to the haunting specter of Damian's personal treachery. A betrayal so deep that it had not only upended her life but threatened to sully the industry she had once transformed. In private chambers filled with muted light and determined resolve, she began the meticulous task of preparing one final, unassailable piece of evidence that would permanently seal Damian's fate. Every document was reviewed, every conversation revisited as she pieced together the final chapters of an intricate saga of deception and manipulation. Her relentless drive for justice now extended beyond personal vindication. It became a crusade for all who had been exploited and silenced by the unchecked ambition of corrupt power brokers. In hushed, late-night sessions surrounded by stacks of records and illuminated by the dim glow of her computer screen, Naomi forged her narrative into an unbreakable chain of truth. The outcome of her efforts would not only redefine the terms of her own liberation but would also expose a network of wrongdoing that had infiltrated the highest echelons of corporate power. The stakes were monumental. A final confrontation that would strip away every layer of guilt shielding Damian and force the public to confront a reality too long obscured by deception. While the world outside was busy reacting to his public downfall, Naomi prepared for an intimate reckoning, one that would force Damian to stand unflinchingly before the people he had wronged. Each piece of evidence, each carefully documented anomaly, contributed to a crescendo of truth that promised to resonate far beyond the confines of legal battles. The air was thick with anticipation as she set the final stage for the ultimate expose, a moment when the full, unsparing truth would be laid bare for all to see and when the long silence of suppressed voices would finally give way to the roaring chorus of justice. The climactic moment finally arrived when Naomi decided that silence was no longer an option and that the final act of retribution must play out in the unforgiving glare of the public eye. In a move that would send shockwaves through every stratum of society, she orchestrated a live press conference in the heart of Lagos, a city that had borne witness to both her rise and her fall. The venue, an expansive glass-walled auditorium overlooking a bustling urban plaza, became the stage for a momentous revelation that was equal parts catharsis and vindication. As the crowd assembled and the cameras rolled, Naomi stepped forward with a quiet confidence that belied the storm raging within. In measured tones that carried every ounce of her anguish, hope, and unyielding resolve, she began to recount the long, harrowing journey of betrayal and rebirth. With every word, the damning evidence she had so meticulously prepared was unveiled, documents that chronicled Damian's malicious misappropriation of funds, his orchestration of fraudulent deals, and his calculated dismissal of a woman who had once been his partner in both love and ambition. The enormity of the revelations rippled through the auditorium like a tidal wave, leaving little room for doubt or denial. Journalists, influencers, and everyday citizens listened as Naomi's voice transformed personal suffering into a universal call for accountability. In that singular moment, every tear shed in silence, every whisper of betrayal, and every lost dream converged into a resounding declaration of truth. The auditorium erupted in a cacophony of stunned silence, followed by an overwhelming surge of support that reverberated across social media and beyond. The live conference was no longer just an exposé of one man's fall, it was a pivotal moment in the redefinition of justice, a moment that would be remembered as the turning point when truth triumphed over deceit, and when the shadows of betrayal were banished forever. In the wake of the explosive press conference, Lagos transformed into a crucible of reinvention and hope. The ripple effects of Naomi's revelations cascaded through every facet of society, sparking a fervor for reform that transcended the boundaries of corporate boardrooms and legal corridors. Streets once lined with whispers of corruption now echoed with voices demanding accountability and transparency. In offices across the city, employees once silenced by fear now gathered in impromptu meetings, collectively resolved to build a new corporate culture defined by ethics and responsibility. For Naomi, the personal cost of reclaiming her legacy was monumental, yet the journey had forged in her an unbreakable spirit, a spirit that refused to be caged by past betrayals. In the days that followed the live broadcast, she took measured steps to reconstitute her empire on the principles that had once driven her passion for marine innovation. With the support of new partners and a legion of fresh talent, she began transforming her headquarters into a vibrant hub for sustainable research, groundbreaking technology, and community empowerment initiatives. Each newly unveiled project was a testament not only to her resilience but also to her unwavering belief that the world could be remade into a fairer, more just place. The once tarnished legacy was now swiftly morphing into a beacon of hope, drawing in investors and innovators eager to contribute to a transformative vision. As headlines lauded her as the Phoenix of Lagos, Naomi remained grounded, acutely aware that the battle for genuine change was far from over. The public's insistence on accountability had forced systemic reforms that reached into every corner of the business landscape. Meanwhile, in an unexpected twist, former skeptics and even erstwhile allies of Damian approached her with proposals for collaboration and regretful confessions of complicity. In every whispered conversation, in every hesitant handshake, there lay the unmistakable promise of a future redefined by collective action and an unyielding quest for truth. The city itself, a tapestry of conflicting narratives, now pulsed with a renewed sense of purpose, forever marked by the indelible imprint of one woman's relentless pursuit of justice. As the societal reinvigoration unfolded, Naomi embraced the challenge of not only rebuilding what had been lost but also redefining the very essence of leadership in a world marred by greed and betrayal. In a series of high-profile interviews broadcast across national networks, she spoke candidly about the evolution of her journey from the depths of despair to the pinnacles of resurgence. With each word, she dismantled the old narrative of a fragile victim, replacing it with one of indomitable strength and visionary determination. "We are not defined by the betrayals we endure," she declared, her voice steady and confident, "but by the courage we summon to transform pain into progress." The interviews resonated deeply, sparking a national conversation about integrity, accountability, and the need for systemic change. Across Lagos, community forums and corporate workshops sprouted up as citizens and business leaders engaged in open dialogue about how to rebuild trust in an era often dominated by cynicism. Naomi's story became a rallying cry, a symbol of what could be achieved when one refused to be silenced by injustice. Young entrepreneurs, emboldened by her example, began pursuing projects that prioritized ethical practices, sustainable development, and social responsibility. Educational institutions integrated her journey into curricula as a modern parable on resilience and the power of truth. Simultaneously, Naomi initiated a series of philanthropic endeavors designed to give back to the community that had nurtured her during her darkest hours. Scholarships were established in her name, aimed at fostering innovation in marine biology and sustainable technologies, ensuring that future generations could carry forward the mantle of progress. The transformation was palpable. Not just in boardrooms, but on the bustling streets of Lagos, where conversations now brimmed with possibilities and the promise of a brighter tomorrow. Naomi's resurgence was no longer just a personal victory. It was a seismic shift that reverberated through every facet of society, igniting the spark of a movement that would continue to challenge entrenched power structures and demand the high standards of transparency and justice that every citizen deserved. As the tide of transformation swept over Lagos, Naomi found herself at the helm of a visionary renaissance that reached far beyond the corridors of corporate power. Her reimagined empire, infused with a commitment to sustainability and communal upliftment, began to forge bold new partnerships with academic institutions, local businesses, and global innovators alike. The grand mansion that once symbolized the pinnacle of opulent excess was now reborn as the Marine Innovation Center, a vibrant nexus for research, development, and collaboration. In this revitalized space, scientists and entrepreneurs worked side by side, their collective ambition igniting breakthroughs that promised to revolutionize the way the city interacted with its coastal environment. Through open workshops, public lectures, and immersive exhibitions, Naomi ensured that the center was not just a sanctuary for innovation, but a bridge connecting the expertise of the elite with the untapped potential of the community. Local youths who once wandered the bustling streets of Lagos with dreams too big for their circumstances were now offered internships, mentorship programs, and scholarships that opened pathways to futures they had never imagined. The transformation wasn't limited to technological advancements alone, it was a cultural metamorphosis that redefined the values of a society long accustomed to a hidden, corrupt underbelly. Grassroots organizations flourished in the wake of her resurgence, inspired by the tangible changes in the city's landscape, a testament to the power of resilience and the human spirit. In every corner of Lagos, from the sunlit markets to the modern glass towers, there was a palpable buzz, a sense that a new chapter was unfolding. Naomi's journey had transcended personal vendetta. It had become a blueprint for a future where ethical leadership and community solidarity paved the way for an equitable, sustainable world. The Marine Innovation Center stood as a gleaming monument to her relentless pursuit of justice and progress, a living embodiment of the belief that even in the darkest of times, hope can be reborn, transforming scars into stars of possibility. The viral explosion of Naomi's triumphant narrative reached far beyond the boundaries of Lagos, cascading through digital channels and social media platforms across the globe. In countless online communities, from sprawling blogs dedicated to investigative journalism to swift, impassioned TikTok reaction videos, the story of her betrayal and subsequent resurgence became a rallying cry for anyone who had ever felt powerless in the face of systemic injustice. Hashtags such as #NaomiRises, #TruthOverTreachery, and #OceanOfJustice began trending, each post and share a digital footprint marking a collective refusal to accept a world mired in deceit. Influencers and celebrities lent their voices to the cause, their online platforms transforming personal tributes into widespread movements calling for reform and accountability. Ordinary citizens, stirred by the echoes of her story, took to the streets and the internet with equal fervor, a unison of voices demanding that those who wield power do so with integrity and respect. Documentaries were planned, podcasts were recorded, and op-eds flooded the pages of major newspapers, each narrative thread weaving together a tapestry of resilience that transcended cultural and geographic barriers. In interviews and viral video segments, Naomi emerged not just as a figure of personal redemption but as a symbol of the enduring strength of the human spirit, a reminder that even in the grip of overwhelming betrayal, one could summon the power to transform loss into legacies of hope. Her story spurred debates in coffee shops, in boardrooms, and on digital forums alike, igniting discussions about trust, vulnerability, and the high stakes of ambition in modern society. Every shared post and every comment was a testament to the universal resonance of her experience, proof that while the ocean may conceal many secrets, it could never erase the sparks of rebellion and truth that, once ignited, had the power to light up the world. As the narrative of Naomi's redemption soared to unprecedented heights, she found herself embracing an unforeseen but welcome evolution. One that saw her stepping beyond the limits of personal recovery to become an enduring beacon for others who had suffered from systemic exploitation. Invitations began pouring in to speak at conferences, to participate in global panels, and to share her journey with audiences hungry for authentic stories of resilience and reform. In each forum, her message was clear and unwavering. The darkest nights often birth the brightest dawns. With a humility that belied the immense transformation she had undergone, Naomi recounted her descent into despair, the cold betrayal, and her eventual resurrection not merely as a means of reclaiming a lost legacy, but as a call to arms for a world that demanded accountability and change. Her voice, steady and sincere, carried the weight of lived experience and the promise of new beginnings. In intimate fireside chats and grand international stages alike, she emphasized that true power lies not in wealth or status, but in the courage to stand up against injustice, to reject oppression, and to rebuild with a foundation rooted in collective well-being. Her words resonated deeply with individuals from all walks of life: young entrepreneurs seeking to challenge the status quo, activists fighting for equity, and everyday citizens who felt silenced by forces beyond their control. Each interaction reinforced a growing movement, a community galvanized not only by the desire for personal redemption, but by an earnest commitment to reshape systems marred by corruption. Naomi's evolution was a catalyst for a larger transformation, marking the beginning of a new era where the lessons of the past served as guides rather than shackles. Her journey had become a powerful reminder that even when the ocean seems intent on swallowing hope, a spark of resilience can ignite a tidal wave of positive change, inspiring generations to come. In the wake of her monumental public victory and the sweeping reforms that followed, Naomi found solace in the quieter, more personal aspects of her renewed life. Behind the scenes of corporate triumphs and digital revolutions, she embraced moments of genuine connection, quiet walks along the Lagos shoreline, heartfelt conversations with those who had stood by her during her darkest hours, and reflective solitude that allowed her to savor the simple beauty of life. The scars of betrayal, though faded by time and mended by resolve, still whispered reminders of the tumultuous past. Yet, they no longer served as chains to hold her back. They were medals of honor, tokens of the struggles she had overcome, and symbols of the profound transformation that had reshaped her very core. In the comfort of a modest home far removed from the glare of public scrutiny, Naomi rediscovered the joys of small victories: a warm cup of tea on a rainy morning, the laughter of a child learning to dream big, the promise of a new idea sparked during an impromptu conversation. Each of these moments was a quiet affirmation of her newfound identity, a person who had experienced unspeakable betrayal yet had risen to forge a future full of promise and possibility. In these reflective interludes, she also found inspiration for her next venture, a series of community-driven projects that aimed to empower those touched by injustice. Through mentorship programs, scholarships, and grassroots initiatives, Naomi sought to share her hard-earned wisdom and encourage others to believe in their own capacity for change. The journey had taught her that every end also heralds a new beginning, and that the beauty of life lies in its ability to regenerate and renew. Though the pain of the past would always be a silent companion, she now carried it as a reminder of her strength. A strength that was meant to inspire, uplift, and ultimately transform not just her own life, but the world around her. At long last, as the crimson hues of a Lagos sunset bled into the deep blue of the encroaching night, Naomi stood on the deck of a brand new yacht, a vessel that was less a symbol of lost wealth and more a testament to her indomitable spirit. The gentle lapping of the waves against the hull echoed the rhythmic pulse of a city reawakened by change, and the wind carried whispers of promises long overdue. In that final, transcendent moment, every hardship, every moment of betrayal, and every tear shed in solitude converged into a single, defining revelation. The ocean, once a silent witness to her downfall, had instead become the cradle of her rebirth. With eyes fixed on the vast expanse of possibility, Naomi allowed herself a quiet smile. The kind born not of triumph over another, but of victory over her own fears. She had emerged from the depths of despair with a newfound clarity, a conviction that no force of greed or corruption could ever extinguish the power of authenticity and relentless resilience. The memories of the past, intricate and painful as they were, now served as the foundation for a future that promised fairness, innovation, and a deep sense of justice for all. As the yacht sailed steadily forward into the night, Naomi's silent vow echoed in the hearts of those who had followed her extraordinary journey, that truth, once unearthed, can transform even the bleakest night into a beacon of hope. The ocean had risen, and so had she, a living, breathing testament to the enduring, transformative power of resilience. If watched this far, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, share with friends, and comment your perspectives or key lessons learned. Your support means a lot to us.